Hi, my name is Vivi. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's been a while. And honestly, today's probably not the best day for me to do my first video back after months and months of not being on here showing my face. But it still felt right. Like, this is not, the video I'm about to make is not representative of the past couple months at all. Like, I've had a actually pretty good past couple months. But today I'm feeling a little bit of mental anguish, and it's manifesting as migraines. And so I wanted to do a video kind of in response to Juli from Peekaboo Rose. She did a video about the 3 of Swords, and then she got into the 10 of Swords, and I believe this was a video response to Meadowlark Mystic, I believe, which I haven't watched her video yet, and I'm going to. I just wanted to, I don't know, her video, Juli's video got me really thinking about the Suit of Swords and where my head's at today. And yeah, I just felt like talking about the Suit of Swords and what it means to me. And yeah, that's what this is about. So I see the Suit of Swords in 2 ways. For me, it's a reflection of my personal journey of choosing my heart over my head, choosing to live in alignment with my heart and not my ego, and to have my mental energy serve compassion, serve the heart, and serve, I don't mean heart like my emotional whims. I mean like, I don't know, in service of the collective versus in service of just me. Yeah, I would even argue that being in service of my mind serving itself is going along with an emotional whim that I am not conscious of. But I'm not going to be talking about the emotions. I'm going to be talking more about mental energy. I've pulled 2 cards from the True Heart Tarot. I'm wearing makeup from yesterday. I literally woke up with my head just like pounding. But I think that's okay. It's okay. So the cards that I have here are the King of Swords and the Princess of Swords. And she is also the Page of Swords in this suit. They go by Princess. Yeah. So today, this morning, I pulled this card in reverse. And then for my advice card, I pulled the Princess of Swords. And this was after I watched Juli's video. So that was, I don't know, tarot's just so on point sometimes. I've almost vilified the Swords suit because when I'm not in a Ace of Swords mental clarity sort of place, I feel like that's the only time I'm happy with my mental energy, when I'm in this place of mental clarity. And things like yoga really help me get to that place. But yeah, I've almost vilified the Swords suit, instead of seeing it as just a reflection of the natural progression of what happens when I choose my head over my heart. I'm very much a Princess of Swords, and this whole video is not coming from an expert position, because I'm still on the journey of mastering the Sword suit, and I admire people who have strength when it comes to the Sword suit. But I'm still very much a Princess of Swords. or a page of swords, and still learning to work with my mental energy. At a young age, I learned to default to my mind and thinking things through instead of letting myself feel some pretty hard things as a child. I wasn't given the tools to know how to feel okay, feel safe, feeling those difficult things. In some cases, I was told not to feel them. And so my default approach to life, even though I present myself as emotionally intelligent on this channel, that's more me reinforcing these things that I've learned to master in terms of allowing myself to feel, like the Queen of Cups energy. I've had to learn to inner parent myself in a loving way, because my natural instinct, or my conditioned instinct, is to think instead of feel. And I think that's a very contemporary issue. Okay, so I mentioned I do yoga to help with, I'm going to go through the whole suit of swords, all the minors, I should say. And I'm going to go through them in the textured tarot because I really love how the artist, I forgot who the artist is. But I really love how she illustrated them. This is probably going to be a long video. So if anyone else save this for a day you're feeling mental anguish, right? You can watch this and we can go through this together. So I have this card pulled. This is from the Gita Deck, and it's a deck that follows the Bhagavad Gita, which is a Vedic text, and that if you practice yoga is an expression, or they call it a science because it's like a science or a proven method to getting to yoga or a union with the divine. But it's based on Vedic texts, and one of the sacred texts is the Bhagavad Gita. Anyways, I'm just explaining that because I feel like a lot of people who watch my videos are more just tarot. But this is like my spiritual practice. Okay, anyways, this is the card that I pulled, I think last night, is Success in Yoga. And there's a little excerpt on the back. This deck has the Sanskrit, the transliteration, because it's meant to be, it's a song, or I think it's called the Song of God, and it's meant to be heard in the Sanskrit verses, but I'm just going to read the English translation. Okay. Be steadfast in yoga, O Arjuna. Perform your duty without attachment, remaining equal to success or failure. Such equanimity of mind is called yoga. So, if you are not familiar with the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna is navigating this battle against part of his family. And it's this great battle. And he has Krishna as his charioteer. So Krishna is the Godhead and the personality of God manifested on earth. And in this life, he manifested as his cousin, or Krishna did, or sorry, I am not here to teach about the Bhagavad Gita. I am, like I said, a student, and this is, we're going through this together. But yeah, so that's why it's a conversation between Arjuna and Krishna. And This was Krishna speaking to Arjuna. So I'm just going to read this again. So Krishna is guiding Arjuna. Okay, so this is what Krishna is saying to Arjuna. Be steadfast in yoga, O Arjuna. Perform your duty without attachment, remaining equal to success or failure. Such equanimity of mind is called yoga. So this is like that very basic principle of detachment from outcome. He's very specifically saying to Arjuna, remain equal to success or failure. So be open to this not going how you want it to go, or this. And in all honesty, Arjuna kind of didn't want to win this battle. He's like wrestling with that because he's like, what are the implications of that? That's a tangent though. Yeah. So basically remain detached from outcome. And I think mental energy, when I'm really all up in my head, it's because I really want things to go a certain way. We've talked about this before on my channel. The mind wants us to minimize pain. Its goal is to minimize pain for us and to maximize pleasure. It's a computer. And that's my point of view on this. And so, yeah, it'll sometimes, like, I don't know if you've ever seen those movies where AI takes over and it's like, this will make humans happy if we just end humans, like my brain doesn't work like that, but it's like, if you go too far into mental energy, it kind of misses the point of experiencing life, and all that comes with it. We are supposed to feel pain and we're supposed to feel pleasure, and it's all just a part of the journey of life. And sometimes my mind can try so hard to minimize pain and to avoid feeling a painful outcome that it just leads to more like self-inflicted pain. And that's how I view the swords. And yeah, we'll go through it specifically. I wanted to read something else though. I'm going to read two more things. This is from the Tao Te Ching by Lao Tzu. This translation, I got this very early in my spiritual journey. I don't identify as a Taoist, though I do align pretty much with everything in Taoism. I just, it's not my main focus. That's why I don't identify. This one's translated by Charles Mueller, and I'm sure there's probably better translations out there. I have not vetted this either. Like I said, this is something I got early in my journey, and before I knew to use my discernment to choose between different things. So I encourage you to do your research about which translation is best for you. Though I will say, for the Bhagavad Gita, I did specifically choose this translation, Bhagavad Gita as it is by Prabhupada, or His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada is his full name. I chose this specific one. This one was more, the universe guided me to it. So I wanted to read chapter 67 from this, and then I will go back and tell you where I'm focused on. The reason everybody calls my Tao great is because there is nothing quite like it. It is exactly because it is great that there is nothing quite like it. If there was something that were consistently like it, how could it be small? I have 3 treasures that I hold and cherish. The first is compassion. The second is frugality. The third is not daring to put myself ahead of everybody. Having compassion, I can be brave. Having frugality, I can be generous. Not daring to put myself ahead of everybody, I can take the time to perfect my abilities. Now, if I'm brave without compassion, generous without frugality, or go to the fore without or go to the fore without putting my own concerns last, I might as well be dead. If you wage war with compassion, you will win. If you protect yourself with compassion, you will be impervious. Heaven will take care of you, protecting you with compassion. Now, this is a beautiful ode to compassion and to serving the heart, as I see it. And it really, really speaks to my very mental approach to life. It really, it rationalizes following the heart for me. So when I'm really in my head, this particular verse helps me loosen my grip a little bit. And I actually wrote about this when I spoke about the heart chakra on my website. I have free resources on my website, the Mystic Meadow, that page on my website, vvverone.com, if you want to learn about the chakras through like my perspective and my personal experiences with them. But what I want to point out specifically is the third is not daring to put myself ahead of everybody. It's like sometimes I'm aware that I'm feeling, let's say, competitive, or I'm feeling inadequate and insecure and wanting to make myself do things to make myself look good on paper, let's say. Like build my resume, for instance. I want to feel like a valid and valuable member of society. And oftentimes, success translates to accolades. It translates to having a bunch of degrees. It translates to having a good resume. And if I'm honest, I do trust people more when they have a good resume. Like, it shows that they've done the work. It shows, so that's what that's about. It's supposed to reflect that somebody cares enough about something that they've put their scholarly focus on it. They're not more valuable in the world because they, oh my goodness, am I gonna cry? They're not more valuable in the world because they're like inherently better in any way, but see, I'm learning to value myself. And I hope anybody who this is good, because when I cry, it's like getting to the emotional root of why I'm having a migraine, and it actually releases my migraine. I had no clue that I was going to process something out loud, but these sacred texts really are powerful. Yeah, when we compare ourselves to people that have different journeys from us, it's looking for ways to invalidate ourselves. They're not more like, we all have something of value to share with the world. I don't know what I'm saying. I had no clue I was going to be in my feels. Like, I was very much up here, and I was like, you know what, I probably felt safe talking about this because I was like, cool, we're gonna keep it up here. Woo. What was I saying? The third is not daring to put myself ahead of everybody. And sometimes we can be very goal-oriented and success-oriented for those wrong reasons, for those reasons that really do go back to the emotional root cause of it for me. I really was trying not to talk about anything emotions related in this one, because I was like, we're going to master the swords, but we can't help but journey through this video through my specific perspective. The last thing I wanted to read, I didn't fully get into this, but you know what? You could read what I wrote about it. I'm drinking coffee, by the way. This is something my fiance sent me. And it's so funny because I was so in my head that specific day that I was like, I don't have time to focus on anything but the thing I'm focusing on right now. And he's like, no, but you're going to like it. And I was like, well, how long is it going to take? And he's like, 30 seconds. And I was like, okay, you have 30 seconds of my time. He's very patient with me. This is by Kurt Vonnegut. And it's a personal experience he had. And I'm looking at my computer here reading this. When I was 15, I spent a month working on an archaeological dig. I was talking to one of the archaeologists one day during our lunch break, and he asked those kinds of getting to know you questions you ask young people. Do you play sports? What's your favorite subject? And I told him, no, I don't play any sports. I do theater, I'm in choir, I play the violin and piano. I used to take art classes. And he went, wow, that's amazing. And I said, oh, no, but I'm not good at any of them. And he said something then that I will never forget, and which absolutely blew my mind, because no one had ever said anything like that to me before. Drum roll. I don't think being good at things is the point of doing them. I think you've got all these wonderful experiences with different skills, and that all teaches you things that make you an interesting person, no matter how well you do them. That's the end of what the guy said to him. And that honestly changed my life, because I went from a failure, someone who hadn't been talented enough at anything to excel, to someone who did things because I enjoy them. I had been raised in such an achievement-oriented environment, so inundated with the myth of talent, that I thought it was only worth doing things if you could win at them. And talent was capitalized in this, which it's like kind of like how the word talent has been uplifted to these sacred heights. And yeah, that I did like when after Todd read that to me, I was just like, wow, that was perfect. That was perfect in every way. Yet I was still hyper focused on what I was focused on, but like the seed made its way, and I think it literally just blossomed in the form of tears in this video. I feel like I don't have to expound on that. It's just a nice anecdote. Yeah. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at the swords, and we're about 24 minutes in. Yeah, so let's look at the swords and the journey of trying to achieve success, and from up here and not from here, because I feel like the universe wants to guide us, each of us, to our own form of success. And we do have our egos for a reason. It's just sometimes we're not completely aligning with our talents and our unique journey in this life. And I think we help humanity evolve when we're true to ourselves. Yeah. So let's take a look. Okay, so I have the textured tarot cards laid out here. The suit of swords and just the minors. Just the minors. I mean, just 1 through 10. So let's begin with the Ace of Swords. Where's the camera? Okay. That's that side. Okay. I'm sitting on my floor right now. the Ace of Swords, I see this one as mental clarity. And so when it's reversed, it's like cloudiness and brain fog, and yeah, but upright, I see it as mental clarity cutting through all of that. And for me, I have mental clarity when I am aware of every single thought passing through my mind, that mindfulness. And that's why this is probably the only card in the Suit of Swords of the numbered cards that I like, because once you start throwing in more thoughts is when things get complicated and hectic and confusing. Yeah. So yeah, mental clarity is what I see when there's just one sword, one focus. The Two of Swords I see as when it comes time to make a decision between the head and the heart. And that can be confusing when we don't have this mindfulness in the moment. The mindfulness to observe the thoughts, see where they're coming from. It feels like a choice until sometimes, for me, I realize that it's a choice between my head and my heart. And being aligned with my values. Yeah, so going further into the swords, I should mention, I see the swords as the mental energy suit. That would be important to mention, right? So when you add another sword, that means going further into the head instead of the heart. And following the head's compass instead of the heart's compass. So then there's heartbreak. Yeah. And after that, we go into deep rest. This is sometimes called the card of depression. It's the card of processing things. It's like, for me, it's did I learn my lesson? Why did I make that choice that led to heartache? Is it egoic heartache, or is it me not being in alignment with my true self heartache? What kind of heartache is it? That's like, you really have to stop and process things and go inward. And so usually when I get to this point, when I get a wave of depression, I try to tap into my emotional intelligence and navigate from that perspective. And that's my journey. Someone who is learning to navigate the mental realm. The mental realm that has, to a certain point in my life, been dominated by unconscious emotional things. So let's say I don't make choices that send me back to, that send me back to mental clarity, mindfulness, and all that. Then we get to the Five of Swords. In the classic Rider-Waite-Smith depiction, we see a battle that was probably an unfair battle. It's the win at all costs type of mentality, and that's what I resonate with, the win at all costs. And you can choose to, like in the classic image, you can choose, you know what, let me pull out the Rider-Waite-Smith. I have the Aquarius Tarot. I don't have an actual Rider-Waite-Smith, but it's just a clone. Oh, I was reading with reversals. Interesting. Did I pass it? Here we are. Cool. That didn't take too long to find, so I'm probably not going to cut it out. In this card, you could look at it like a dream where you're all the characters in the dream and they're different parts of you. But for for this particular storyline, I read it as the identification with the victor in the win at all costs person. If I'm doing different kinds of readings, I will occasionally figure out who I'm identifying with, but in this particular storyline, it's this person. Okay, so I love the way the artist interpreted that here. Win at all costs. The fox is literally turning itself into something it's not to achieve its goal. That's not being true to itself. It's very clever. The mind is very clever. But it's winning at all costs to its own detriment. Now it's going to fall off this cliff. So yeah. The mind can push you so far. Like, I think there's a Dalai Lama quote about seeing a child running to the edge of a cliff and wanting to help them. Like when you see like someone like President Trump, for instance, in the United States, when you see someone so harmful and running, and you know why they're acting the way they are, and it's kind of like a mirror. So many of us are trying to be someone we're not in, I think, in our culture. So I think it's a cultural thing. Yeah. Trying to be this image of success, and like, like what I talked about earlier, trying to look good on paper. Yeah, very image oriented. Like, this is purely superficial. Those wings are not functional. Okay. So then, this card is kind of leaving things behind, going somewhere. It's kind of like you've tried everything and it's going elsewhere. So in this storyline, this can be read in many different ways, but in this specific storyline that I've found helpful to me, it's like moving somewhere else and trying again. And like the mind can convince itself, it's like, oh, I'm going where people will accept me, you know? And I think that is, that's valid as well. And we should do our very best to find like communities that accept us and like find that our safe spaces in the world. But that's not what I'm seeing this as in this storyline. In some cases, I will read this card as that, and that's a positive. But in this one, I read it as, I guess, going to a smaller pond. Like if you're a small fish in a big pond and it's deciding to go to a smaller pond. But the thing is, when you do that, when you're so success-oriented that you do, find like under the guise of trying to go somewhere where you will thrive instead, you leave these two swords behind. You leave a part of yourself, like, and this is a significant part of yourself behind. I'm saying you and your, this video is going to be, when I watch this video back, it'll be like me talking to me as well. But yeah, this card is also interpreted as thievery, someone stealing something. I view it as, I don't really do the like readings, like sometimes I will interpret it as that, like someone took something from me. But I tend to identify with this, I think it's a wolf. I identify with that part of me that's being clever and trying to get away with something. I've heard it described as being clever in getting your needs met. And I love that. I love that so much. Because that's the emotionally intelligent perspective of it, that's pointing us back to our emotional realm within, that's being reflected in the mental realm, that we're trying to be clever in getting those needs met, but we're doing it in a way that is not really serving our whole selves, the whole self. You can't leave part of you behind, because you're going to have to retrieve it eventually, whether it be with a shaman during a soul retrieval, or speaking in therapy. It's going journaling. You're going to have to figure out what it is that you've left behind, in order to get these parts of us to feel, or of me to feel valid. I'm all over the place right now. Okay. So here we have the Eight of Swords, where we're trapped, and it's kind of like, it's interpreted most often as, I'm the one keeping myself trapped. And it's like the blindfold, like she has free hands. She could take the blindfold off. It's like not wanting to see that we made certain choices leading up to this. And I love that these two swords are kind of like these shears sitting off to the side. It's like you have to use those specific parts of you that you left behind to set yourself free. Yeah, I love this card. The barbed wire. And then we get into the Nine of Swords. I love this one. I've lived in this state of mind for so long. This anxious, kind of haunted by fears, these things that go bump in the night, right? This is ghosts from the past. It's everything that led up to this moment. But for me, like from the emotional perspective, it's going back to realizing I didn't know how to process certain things as a child, and they're manifesting today as these shadows. It's shadow, right? It's time to process shadow. It's not as scary as it is, but like the inner child is scared of those things. That's been my personal experience, and why the Queen of Cups has actually really helped me navigate this stuff. And then we get to the Ten of Swords. It's like pushing through anxiety in the not listening to the anxiety kind of way. We didn't listen to anxiety, what it was telling us, and now I am being crushed under all these thoughts and all these conflicting things and confusion and what's the word for it? The brain fog, all that. So I have, for me, when I pulled this card last time I pulled it, I was doing tarot with Todd. He was holding space for me. It's helpful when I'm doing tarot for myself if I have someone to talk to about what I'm interpreting. And I love Todd because he's a very heart-centered person. I'm really grateful to have a partner who can be unconditionally loving and hold that space as I process things, because sometimes I have a hard time tapping into that for myself. Yeah. And I'm not trying to be reliant on him for that. I can still do tarot for myself alone. But because he was there and because I was talking to him, I spontaneously started naming each of these swords, like shame, self-loathing, and like other things that, like loneliness. I'm trying to remember the ones that I used. And I remember I was having a hard time, like I was having to really dig deep to find more names for each of the swords. And then I finally got to this last sword here. And when I named it, that's the one that made me cry. And as you saw earlier, when I cry, I release things. Yeah. So sometimes we hit rock bottom, and that's a great opportunity to name all these swords that we've been carrying on our journey. And this is what I see when we're serving, when I'm serving my mind is serving my mind and not serving some bigger picture, not serving my true self and the collective. This is what inevitably happens. And I feel it very strongly as someone who gets migraines. I'm sure many of you can relate to this. Yeah. And that's the Suit of Swords. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I felt like it was a little bit of a healing journey. And that happens on accident sometimes. And I feel really good right now, like a lot better from when I started this video. So I just want to say thank you guys so much for holding space for me as I went through certain things, and hopefully going through your own healing journey if you're on one. I hope this was in some way impactful on that. I'm very interested if you feel like you're someone who's mastered the Suit of Swords. I'm very interested to hear your perspective on the Suit of Swords. And I feel like I said in the beginning of this video, I sometimes vilify the King of Swords. And when in truth, the King of Swords at his best is, or at their best, is innovative, very innovative. And yeah, I'm interested to hear your perspective on it, especially if you have a very good relationship with the Suit of Swords. Like, if it's, I don't know, I'm trying to have all these qualifications, but I want to hear everyone's perspective on the Suit of Swords. I will link Juli's video below, and I'm going to go watch Meadowlark Mystics as well, and on her video on the Three of Swords, and I will link her video below because I tend to love everything she says as well. So yes, thank you so much, and I'm sending you so much love, and have a wonderful day. Bye.